I'm Johnny Thojai from Poetry Corner and Elmwood Productions, and you're watching that maniac Rich the Claw Seer on the Claw's Corner. Check it out or be a loser.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Claw's Corner. Today's guest is the founding member and drummer of the hard rock band out of Atlanta, Georgia, Pistols at Dawn. Their most recent album, Ascension, was released last year on Megaforce Records, featuring songs Under the Surface, Keep Me Guessing, For You, The Truth, Gravity, Getaway, and Dictator. Every song is destined to be a classic, not one weak track on the album. Their most recent single, Fly, debuted on the SMR Active Rock radio charts at the #1 in top ads, #2 in greatest gainers in the first week. And it was also the #3 most added behind Metallica and Daughtry on the media-based active rock charts and #2 most added on the Billboard Rock chart. So what the hell am I waiting for? Let's get right to it.
Thanks for having me.
Talented. You're very welcome. The extremely versatile and extremely friendly Adam Jaffe to the Claw's Corner. Adam, how the hell are you?
I'm amazing, brother. Thank you so much for having the band on the show and for having myself. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you on here because, as I mentioned off the air, I was introduced to the band by your publicist, and I have been hooked. I've been watching your videos, listening to your songs. I cannot wait to see you in concert. I'll be in the front row, moshing away, dancing, singing the songs. So
beautiful. What city are you in?
I'm in Connecticut. So the best part is I'm so close to New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, everywhere. So I mean, no matter where you're playing, I could be there.
We're planning a headline tour now. And so I hopefully will be seeing you very soon.
All right. I am definitely looking forward to it. Before we even get into that, I want to talk about what I mentioned in the intro. Your song, your latest single, Fly. Congratulations on all of its success. I mean, you're climbing up the charts on that.
Thank you. Thank you. When we wrote it, it was just one of those special songs that we put together. We all felt like we had something. Our producer felt like we had something. And ultimately, our radio team asked us to do a radio edit, and that's the actual edit that we put out. It just came together beautifully, and it's a special song for sure.
Well, what's the reason for the edit? Was it because of the content, or was it just because of the length?
There's a lot of screaming in the original version, and what the concern was that a lot of radio stations wouldn't play the song enough because they would wait until like later in the night to play the screaming versions. You know what I mean? The screaming songs. And so it was very simple. They contacted me and they're like, "Listen, you got to go fix that." And we actually have a new frontman. His name is Jon Sookdew Sing, and he's been our frontman for a while now. But when we had the opportunity to put him on the track, it was a no-brainer. In 3 days, we knocked it out, and you heard the final version.
Oh yeah, and I love it. The reason I asked that was because of length, was because I remember when the Doors came out with Light My Fire, they had to do a radio edit, not really because of the content, even though some people didn't like the word higher, but mostly they used to take out the keyboard solo and they would just have the Robbie Krieger guitar solo, and it would change it from an 8-minute song to a 4-minute song. So I was wondering if that had something to do with it. But either way, radio edit, the explicit version, screaming version, I love them all. So congratulations.
Thank you.
What I also love too is you guys are old school with back to the mid 80s, late 80s in the videos. And that video is no exception. It starts off with, this video is dedicated to fucking girl power.
You said it, my friend. It was very simple. This is a love song. It's a tribute to women. And it was actually our publicist's idea. She's like, you really should dedicate this to women, and because it's a special song. And honestly, that was after we had made the video. I mean, I told my video director that I wanted something special. I wanted to feature women. I didn't want to make it sexist and, your old school, ridiculous 80s bullshit rock sexist crap. We wanted to actually feature them and let them be seen and let them be, let their power come through. And it was just one of those special days. Like, I remember making the video, all the girls came in and they just fucking owned it.
Yeah.
And, they wanted it to be a part of it. They wanted to make it special. And we just said, go, we let them do them. It was awesome.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Were these people that were just hired for the video? Were they women that you knew and said you want to be a part of a video and just let them dance around and scream and yell and have a good time?
They were actually hired. They were actually hired to do the video, and they had to audition obviously by dancing and stuff and professionally. But we didn't have a clue when they came in exactly what was going to go down, and it just happened the way you see it. Yeah, which is so special.
You know, definitely you could tell it was genuine. It didn't seem like it was, thought out, just like, all right, let's just have some fun, and they're dancing around, and it got me into it. It's like I was dancing around the video too. And what I mentioned before is I said I loved it because not a lot of bands, maybe they do, and I don't notice it as much, but I love the old videos. One example is Dio's The Last in Line. It was directed by Don Coscarelli, who did Phantasm, Beastmaster, all these great movies. And back in the 80s, they used to have videos with the stories, and it was high concept videos. And I want to get into some of your other videos later on, but it's just, I love the fact that your band is still doing that, because I think it's important. I mean, not only are there's the theatrics go with the music. I mean, not only is a band just the music, but it's also what they see.
And you bring up such a valid point. We actually, the real meat of Pistols at Dawn came out in 2020. And, the pandemic happened 3 months after we went full-time pro. And I had a decision to make at that time with the rest of the band. And it was very simple. I was like, I'm going to put my head down, and we're going to make videos, and we're going to record an EP. And we did 8 videos during the worst part of the pandemic so we could entertain people and give them real rock and real feeling and real videos. And if you look at all 8 videos that we put out during the pandemic, which are all available, I mean, like we're every single one of them, including the Fly video after that. It's just legit shit. You want to give people the real deal. We don't use tracks. We're a modern rock band, but we're definitely old school rockers. We love old school rock music and kind of grew up with that. And so, we want to give that visual feeling as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, this brings up it's a great, segue into what I want to talk about next, because I asked the guitar player for Bret Michaels' solo band this, and he got mad when I asked him this because he's friends with Vince Neil. And I was talking about singers that use teleprompters on stage. What's your opinion on that?
That's an interesting question. Well, here's what I would say. If it is a new band, absolutely not. Yeah. Memorize your goddamn music.
Thank you.
If it is an old band with fucking 40 tracks a night, a 3-hour set, they're touring the world. It's a grind traveling, even when you can do it, even when you have the money to do it right. But I'm just saying, if Axl Rose needs a teleprompter, hey man, give him a teleprompter. When you sing 30 songs a night, and you've done it for 20 or 30 years, give them a teleprompter just in case. You can lose yourself in the music sometimes. And I'm sure after you've done it for 30 years, on stage, touring, big time shows, why not?
I could be wrong, and maybe I didn't see it, but I saw Paul McCartney last year at Fenway Park, and he did a 3-hour show, played, I want to say, at least 35 songs. I did not notice any teleprompters on there. And he was, what I love about, it was maybe 3 days before he turned 80 years old. He was telling stories after every song. He was dancing as much as he can. He was having a great time. It was still so much fun to watch him on stage playing these classic songs. I loved it. So, I could be wrong, but I agree with you, and I know what you're saying. But it's, like you said, if you're a newer rock band, I think it would sort of deter, just learn your fucking songs. And you only have 8 songs at the most if you came out with one album, maybe an EP.
Right.
Yeah, that's your job.
Listen, Paul McCartney, Mick Jagger, they can do whatever the fuck they want to do. They're fucking aliens. They are the greatest musicians of all time, and whatever they choose to do, and I even throw my hat off to, looking at Hetfield and Axl Rose and all those guys in those bands that have been around 30, 40 years that are, filling out stadiums, at will and playing their hearts out every night, man. Whatever the fuck they want to do, they get to do,
Yeah. I want to talk about this because most people, or maybe most people do, but some people don't realize how important a producer plays in the sound of the band. 2 examples I'm going to give you are obviously Sir George Martin with the Beatles. Another one that I love, because I love a lot of the stuff he did, is Rick Rubin. He's done everything from Slayer, Run DMC, to Eminem, to all Johnny Cash, Neil Diamond. So I want to talk about your experience because you worked with Sylvia Massy. She's the Tool, System of a Down, Johnny Cash, and as well as Chris Pearson. So tell me your experience of working with her and how she helped shape the sound of the band.
Yeah, I mean, it was special working with her. She is one of the coolest ladies on earth and coolest producers on earth. She takes in what you want and then does her thing. And we really went to her because we wanted her to put her stamp on it.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Pearson was the co-producer, and he kind of did the initial production after we recorded, when we recorded, and then she went in and did the final magic and mixed it. And the combination of the two of them, obviously you hear it. I mean, it's a special album, and it really brought to life what we were trying to do. I mean, we're pretty good musicians, so we can go into the studio and we can punch out exactly what we play. We don't need a bunch of I don't need a bunch of effects. You don't hear a bunch of effects on the drums or on the guitars or anything. But they do their thing. And a producer's basically like the fifth or sixth member of the band, and they're there to really give it that extra final stamp. And that's why it's so important to work with who will make it be you, and just be an extension of you, not necessarily take you somewhere that you can't replicate. Because I swear to God, if you come to see us live, what you hear on that album is what you're going to hear live. That's one of the rules of this band. We're not going to put out something we can't go play.
I was just going to say that's so smart of you, because you see these bands, they sound great on the album, and you go live like, that's not what I heard on the albums, because they can't do it with what they did in the studio. But well, go ahead.
No, please.
No. What I wanted to say was not only Chris and Sylvia, but you worked with so many great people. I want to go back to 2015. You worked with Jeff Tomei from Smashing Pumpkins, Matchbox. How did you hook up with all these great people? How did you make so many connections so early in your career?
Yeah, it's just pretty fortunate. When you're from Atlanta and you are in a pro level band, you really want to work with someone in Atlanta who's at the level or much higher than you. And Jeff Tomei is one of the most well-known producers in Atlanta, and like Brendan O'Brien's here, and Butch from Marvelous 3. So you've got a bunch of really fucking amazingly top shelf producers, but we wanted the guy who mixed Siamese Dream. We wanted the guy who worked with Jonathan Davis on his solo albums. We wanted Jeff is just one of the coolest, nicest guys in the world to work with, and so we went to him. Obviously, we had some demos ready for him to see what we did, and he was happy to work with us, and he put his stamp on it. And when you listen to the original tracks that we put out, and then the EP that we put out, the Nocturnal Youth EP, that is Jeff Tomei with Pistols at Dawn, and it has a certain feel to it, and has a certain sound to it, and we love that, and we're proud of it. And we play a bunch of those songs every time we play our shows. And then when you evolve, you go to a Sylvia Massy, and we had Chris Pearson working prior to Sylvia, and the combination of the two of them took the sound to the place we wanted to evolve to. Okay, that's Ascension. And now we've toured on Ascension, and we're going to tour even more on Ascension through the rest of the year and coming into the new year. But then we've got a whole new album, which we've been working on, and it's going to take you to a whole nother world, my friend. It's so diverse and interesting, and you've got all sorts of different things that we haven't done before. It was very important for us to not just do the exact same thing. Obviously, we have our recipe of how we do things, but we haven't done a ballad. We haven't done a cover. We haven't done a slow this or a feature, or we haven't brought in strings on a song. Well, it's all coming. It's all coming. You're going to get the whole fucking gamut. This is going to be our, our Nevermind. This is going to be our big one. And we really feel strongly that it will. I don't know who we're going to use for our producer yet. We're searching that out, seeking that out now. But it's going to be one of the biggest producers in the world. And what we want is for them to take the work that Jeff did and the work that Sylvia did, and ultimately, shoot it to the fucking moon. And to answer your question, how do we get so lucky to do it? Just fucking dumbass luck and goddamn talent.
Yep.
If you're good, then producers want to work with you. I remember when we called Sylvia's manager, Chris, her husband, he was like, okay, I need to, we were like, we want to work with Sylvia. We wanted to do our next album. Here's our old music. He was like, cool. Now send me the new music that she's going to mix. And so we went back and we had to demo it all and we sent it over to him and he's like, yep. And that was a validating moment when Sylvia Massy, who's done some of the biggest albums in the history of music and rock music more specifically and heavy music more specifically, says, yep. It wasn't like a debate. I didn't have to convince him. It was just like, yep. And we keep getting those yeps a lot lately. And so it's just really validating in what we do.
Yeah, no, that's impressive because, and I love what you're saying because sometimes I think bands get pigeonholed into a style because they do the same album over and over again, just with different titles. And then when they try something different after maybe the third or fourth album, people are not used to it. And they're like, that's not what I liked before. So you're right away saying, you know what, you're not going to just get rock, you're going to get ballads, you're going to get this. And I personally love that because your fans are not going to know what to expect. And maybe some fans will drop off, new fans will come on. You're always going to have people that are going to have your hardcore base. And I love the fact that you're open-minded and you're willing to play anything. And that's going to make you such a better, more well-rounded band. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think, coming out of the last album and this touring that we're doing now, and we're going to continue to do through the rest of the year, you just have to evolve if you're going to stay relevant.
Exactly.
I mean, we'll give our hardcore early supporters that old school, meaty, heavy rock. I assure you, we will have some bangers on this album. I know for a fact we do, and they're bangers, right? And I'm excited about them. But I'm also excited about the other shit they're going to get. So, we're going to give them the full gamut on this one. We haven't gone as well-rounded as we are now.
Yeah. Well, another thing that you've done very quickly in your career is you were signed to Megaforce Records. I mean, you're in some great company: Metallica, Anthrax, Overkill, Testament, Bad Brains, Black Crowes, and more. You definitely, I mean, you put your left foot forward and just haven't looked back. I love it. It's like, everything's just falling right into place. Sometimes what you're doing usually takes people 20, 25 years. They always say the 20-year overnight success. You just woke up and said, we're going to make the best rock and roll ever. And the one thing also I think as part of your success is your attitude. You have a great attitude. You have lots of confidence and you know what you're doing. You know that it's good and you're selling it. Thank you.
And we were fortunate to work with Missy and the team over at Megaforce and their distribution and from day one, they've been very kind to us. It's fascinating having a direct line to the head of Megaforce Records, which I do. And she's always so kind to us. She's always, what can I do to help? And it's the type of thing where it just, you want to have the strongest team possible. And we have TKO. TKO is our booking, does our booking. And we have one of the president of TKO as our booking agent. And, we're just blessed so far, and hopefully we keep all that shit going. I think it's like you say, if you exude the right vibe and you have the talent and the product, and you keep giving it to them and you show them that you're willing to work, because the music industry, if you're going to be in it, you're going to be pro and you're going to be elite, you have to work your living ass off. I think people don't realize how much we have to work, but it's a lot. And I think once they see just how relentless we are, and that we're going to drive them crazy to get where we want to go, and be real sweet and nice about it, they're happy to work with us.
Now, did Megaforce approach you or did you approach them?
So we had an incredible publicist at the time who made the connection to their A&R and had them take a listen for us. And it was an instant, I would like to meet the band. And it was another one of those moments where I got on the phone with him and he was like, love what you're doing and let's do this thing. And I was just like, let's go. And literally within a week or two, we had the distribution deal that we did done. And, I was on the phone with Missy and they did their background on us and they checked us out. And then boom, we released Ascension.
You make it sound so easy. I love it.
It definitely was not. It was, but it wasn't. Like it was just put my head down and beat the doors down until you get what you want. And when you have the product and talent, those doors open, and once you open one door, it opens the next and next and next and next, and the doors are getting a lot easier for us every day, which honestly is an honor. It's like your door, you know, where I'm on the phone with you right now, and it's a blessing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Years ago, I was in radio, and I went to Connecticut School of Broadcasting, and one of the things they taught me in the very beginning was the more no's get you closer to a yes. They're like, you're going to get turned down over and over and over again. Just keep plugging away, keep giving them your tapes, because one programmer doesn't like it, the next one might love it. And every time I went for a job, they'd say, well, you're too green. I said, well, how can I have any experience if nobody gives it to me? Once I got that first job, I got 3 other radio jobs within 2 months. So I was working 3 full-time radio jobs, like doing different shifts, going from one station to another. But it's, yeah, just, I had that same mentality as you. It's like, nope, I know I'm good enough. I know I could do it. I'm going to do it. I was at every single radio station. I'm calling them up, like, it's the program director there. Without saying a word, I'd hang up, go down there. Hi, my name is Rich. Don't want to introduce myself. Same thing. So I definitely know everything you're saying, exactly how you did it and why it's working.
Well, I think in any area of creativity, if you're going to be a pro and you want to be elite, you have to be relentless at it. And that if whether it be radio, or I have one of my best friends, he's in film, and you know he has to grind it. I mean, every single day is a grind, and you put your head down and you have to be a bull. And I think if I gave a talk to aspiring pro musicians, I would tell them, you know, if you're not willing to put your head down and fight like a fucking crazy person to get where you want to go in this business, then don't do it. Because it's just, there's a ton of bands, and there's a ton of competition, and there's a ton of people who will absolutely say no unless you've got something they want, and you're someone they want to do it with. And, you know, I think my relentlessness is infectious. And it drives my people crazy probably a good bit of the time, but they see that there's just no fucking into it, which is what I want them to see. And I think any aspiring creative needs to understand that you can be as talented as you fucking want to be, but if you're not ready to fucking be relentless about it, you know, get out of the way, because someone like me is going to fucking stomp your ass.
Exactly. Well said. So I want to go back a bit. What is the origin of Pistols at Dawn? Let's go back to the beginning of how you first started with this band.
Yeah, 2015, me and the original lineup of Mike Buffa and Devin White and Billy Sullivan, we got together, and you know, we just kind of got in we had a rehearsal space, and we rehearsed, you know, every week, and it was the type of thing where eventually it was one of those things where we didn't necessarily get together to go pro. We got together just to play music because we loved music. And it was one of those things where the music was so good. Our original tracks, Cold and Gauntlet, it was so good in the room that we had to record it. So I went out and hired Jeff and got the band in, and we recorded Cold and Gauntlet. Those were our first 2 tracks. And it was just magic, you know? I mean, if you hear those tracks, to this day, we play them live. They're some of our most streamed tracks to this day, you know, from 2015 with that original lineup. And that's how basically the band started. Ultimately, we recorded in the studio, and then we had some drama, took a break for a bit. Things went south for a little bit with just some of the members in the band. It was just, you know, your typical band shit at the beginning. After we recorded, you know, what to do next, you know, that type of thing. Yeah. We had a bunch of disagreements, and then we kind of went on hiatus. And next thing you know, I got a call from one of my members telling me that the original shredder, Mike Buffa, he had cancer. And ultimately, I think he had a 2 or 3 year battle with that, and then he passed away. And we all went our different ways at that point with other bands and other projects. And eventually I got a call from my old friend, Devin. And he was just like, this was in summer of 19. And he's like, dude, we have to do this. He's like, I just went to Mike's funeral, and we have to finish this. We have to do this. And I was like, well, I'm in, let's go. So he and I and Billy, the original bassist, got together, and we started playing again. And it was special, and we knew we had something again. And we started writing new material, and we knew we had something again. And so at the beginning of 20, we decided to go all in. I told them, if we do, then I will never stop. You know, we're going all the way, or that's it. And they understood what that meant. And we've had some lineup changes. we've had multiple lineup changes like every other pro band on earth. But that's kind of how the band started.
Yeah. Well, being in a band is almost like being married. You're going to go through ups and downs. You're going to get along. You're not going to, I mean, in order to, I think you have to get along, for the most part, to create great music. I mean, if you all hate each other, like sometimes you hear these bands where each member has their own tour bus, they're not going to last that long, especially in the beginning stages. If you're doing that in the very beginning, so I like what you did. You did what was best for the band to sound the best they are. If you need a lineup change, like, sorry, no hard feelings, but you got to go. We're going to replace you with somebody else.
It's always been business for me in that sense.
Yeah.
Because when you are at this level, there's no room for the ridiculousness and the drama and the shit that can pull you down, and the alcohol and the drugs and the mental health issues. And let me tell you something, when you go on the road with people, it all comes out. I've seen it. I've been in front of it. I have experienced it from other people, and I'm no perfect person, but I'm the business guy in the band. And it's just that I knew early on that if shit went down, lineup change is going to happen. We're going to keep going. Nothing is going to stop us. We're not going to break up because someone, gets on drugs. We're not going to break up because he's fucking bipolar. We're just going to move on. And, people have to keep their shit together if you're going to be in this business, because I'm not going to let the band be drugged down. And, they would probably, some of my former members would tell you I'm the biggest asshole on earth because of that. And I would just tell you that I appreciate them and their time in the band and what they contributed. And I value everything that they brought to the band. And unfortunately, the lineup is what the lineup is because it has to be.
Now, you were saying that the current lineup began playing around 2019. So that must have been right before COVID.
So we went pro with our second lineup.
Okay.
Our second lineup. We went pro at the beginning of 20. So at January 20, we made the commitment. March 20, actually, I got COVID before they announced it.
Yeah.
I had the worst form of it. That shit that puts people down. Mm-hmm. I had that form of it for, I think it was 3 weeks. I couldn't breathe. I was fucked up. So for 3 weeks, I had COVID. We had just made the commitment to go pro, and they announced the world shutting down. And I was just like, I don't give a fuck. We're doing it. And so literally that's when I was like, okay, we're planning the music video. They're like, but you can't be around other people. I was like, well, fuck it. Stand over there and film us. God damn it. We went into the studio and did our Nocturnal Youth EP. He stood over there and he stood over there, and the producer was in the box, and wore a mask if you wanted to, and fuck it, man. I mean, we had to do what we had to do. We were safe, and fortunately no one became ill or anything. And we did 8 videos and the fucking thing, and I communicated with, and our our socials person communicated with me with a million people. That was our moment. I hate how horrible the pandemic was, and I hate all the negative things that surrounded it, but we looked at it as an opportunity because, if you're going to be sitting the fuck at home, then I'm going to entertain your ass. And that's exactly what we did.
I love
it. We made the best of it because we wanted to come out like a bullet, like a fucking rocket. Yeah. And we did.
And you know what? I think the pandemic was, as horrible as it was also good in a way, because I think it made people, after it died down, more appreciative of going out and seeing live entertainment, seeing bands, seeing comedy, because before the pandemic, they're like, you know what? I'll go next time. And then they realize, shit, there might not be a next time. So it seems like when I go to shows anyway, they're a lot more enthusiastic. The people, it's more filled than when it was when I'd be pre-pandemic. So I think maybe in a way, and you can correct me if I'm wrong from what your experience is, but I think people are more appreciative of the live entertainment, and they're going out and supporting it more than they did pre-pandemic.
Undoubtedly. And everybody's touring, and a ton, and you're getting the best tours in history because everybody's going out, and all the old bands are getting back together and reuniting, and old music's coming back, and old bands are coming back that you never dreamed of in your lifetime. And basically they were sitting at home for fucking 2.5 years, and they need to go make money. And they missed it. It's their livelihood. And we missed it. And it's the type of thing where, and the fans missed it, the supporters missed it. And it's so awesome now because people value music, art, creativity, it's even more so than before. You know, we took it for granted. We took life for granted. All of a sudden, you can't go out anymore. You can't be around people anymore. You can't breathe around people anymore. You know, the worst pandemic since what? You know, the early 1900s. And it's like, and the early what was it, 1900? And so I'm just saying, like to see people out now, we all are embracing life.
Yes.
And that's why I play so hard on stage. That's why my guys play so hard on stage, just because this is our moment. This is, you know, we get to experience this, and the people in front of us, we want them to experience exactly what we're experiencing. And I think it's a much deeper connection that bands are having with their supporters now as a result of the pandemic. People realized they had something to lose during the pandemic, musicians and the supporters. Now we're all one big fucking fat cohesive unit again. And fuck, if we're going to give that shit up, we're going to go out and embrace it.
Hell yeah. I love it. Another thing I always say is that marketing is a completely different animal. It's one thing to write a great record, one thing to have people hit, but it's a completely different thing to get the song in front of people for the world to hear. And it sounds like you have mastered that. Like you know, I mean, I know you have your whole team behind you helping you with this, but it seems like you're out there all the time getting the music out, getting the word out. I mean, doing interviews with me and other people, always talking about what you're doing. And some people don't, I mean, like some people think that like, oh, just make a good album and people, if it's good, they'll buy it, but there's a lot more to it. And that's why I said you appreciate that too. And I see you all over the place out there promoting this, telling everybody where you're going to be, and it's definitely paying off.
Thank you. And it's an art. Marketing music, it's a fucking art and a science, and you have to have an advanced degree in it, my friend. Oh, yeah. That's all I can tell you. I've tried every way. You know, when you start from zero to build where we are, you know, you have to have the talent and you have to have the product, but all the other, there's a million steps. I mean, I can't even tell you how many gazillions of hours myself and my significant other, she does all of our socials and all of our web stuff. And she's had to do a gazillion application. I don't know. I don't even know how to put it. Just, it's a mountain of experience that you have to gain. And because there's so many vultures out there who will happily take your money and market shit. So it's literally, you have to find the right recipe and the right team. And we're just very fortunate because I banged on some pretty big goddamn doors to ultimately get us the right team. And, you know, when you have the product and you're willing to do the work, then they're happy to work with you, if you know what I mean. But marketing is its own, music marketing is its own beast.
Exactly.
You know, and I advise people to get advice, because trying to figure it out on your own or just Googling it ain't going to get it done. Not in this industry.
It's not like you pick up like marketing bands for dummies and they're going to like, all right, I have the answer to this. It's going to take a lot more than that. Yeah.
So and here's the last thing I'll tell you about that.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Unfortunately, you got to have money to move in the music industry, unless you have won the lottery and you put something out on Instagram and it blows up 50 billion streams and they happen to sign you as a result of that and you're Justin Bieber. You know, honestly, you have to have a few dollars. And so I advise people have another job to pay so you can market properly and be elite. If you don't have money behind your band, you will not get where you need to go, because the top teams aren't going to work with you at first because you're not bringing in a bunch of cash. And so it is an unfortunate reality, but you have to have a few dollars to put behind your band. So I advise people, have jobs. Don't just rely on touring, to pay for everything.
Yeah, well, I speak with a lot of musicians on this show, and some of them told me that some bands actually just pay to buy bots to make their music seem even more popular than it really is. Like it's like a lot more streams were played than they really were. So I mean, I don't really think that that's going to get them any further. It's going to make them look bigger than they really are.
It doesn't help. The reality is the record labels, management teams, anyone worth their salt, they have software and they can figure out if you have bots or not these days. Yeah. You have to be very careful. You have to be very careful about that. And it's not worth it. I mean, the reality is that even if you spent the money, you can't get the amount of streams that's really going to get anyone's attention.
Exactly.
That's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, it just
So
makes you look good to your friends. That's about it. It's like, wow, you have a lot of
correct,
streams on that one. You must be really popular. So I want to go
correct.
back to Adam Jaffe, the early years.
Huh.
Tell my viewers how your dad's girlfriend got you started playing drums.
How did you know that? Did I put that in an interview somewhere?
You might have. I was doing my research on you, and I looked at a lot of
Good.
different things. I was reading things, so I'm not sure where I saw it, but I did hear this story.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, I was 6 years old, and my parents got divorced at 5. And my dad's very first girlfriend, I think her name was Dolly, and Dolly literally gifted me a drum set, a kitty drum set, just to piss off my mother. And and
I love
you
it.
know, I don't remember that kit very much, but I did force my dad right after that to buy me electronic pads, and then from there I went to my first real drum set, and then I forced my mother to get me drum lessons, and so I started playing in bands immediately. I wasn't that dorky band kid. I was always I want to be in a rock band and be a rock star kid.
So you always wanted to be a drummer then? You never wanted to be the guitar
Oh
hero or a singer?
no, 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 no. I took to being behind a drum kit like white on rice. I don't. It was just right for me from the beginning.
Yep. Now, did your parents introduce you to a wide range of music growing up?
I don't know that my parents did, but I was an only child, and so what my parents let me do was be very independent. And my
Mhm.
friends and I became rockers very quickly. We were into rock music very quickly from when I was tiny. I mean, literally, I can remember my earliest years having records and stuff, and back in the day, and one of my one of the first ones that I remember my parents had or something was ACDC. Some early ACDC and some early Van Halen, and my dad would play it all the time. And so yeah, maybe they got me into it a bit. But honestly, they let me go to concerts from when I was just super little kid with like babysitters and shit. And so I was hooked for live music. That was, when they ask you what you want for your birthday, I'd say I want concert tickets. So, and I was always that kid at 3 o'clock in the morning who would be waiting outside, the old music stores to get tickets and shit.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I grew up a similar way because my father loved more of the rock side, like the Doors, Gary Wright, all these different Jefferson Starship, Gary Puckett. And my mother loved more of the softer side, like Carpenters and ABBA. So I grew up listening to all of it, and I love all that music. I'm a fan of all types of music.
Yeah.
But growing up, my brothers and I were in metal bands, and I love the fact I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, where they had record stores, and I would go down there, and instead, I hate it now because the kids today who are younger don't realize how much fun it was. Instead of like, if you watch this or listen to this, you might like this. I would learn everything from going to the record store and like, oh, you love this album? You got to find this one. And I would just look at them like, all right, let me buy it. And that's how every Saturday I would spend maybe 4 hours it was called Phoenix Records in Waterbury, Connecticut. And I loved that place. And I learned so much about music from my friends and being in different bands, doing exactly that. And I will never, ever forget that experience.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you say that because I think the equivalent for the newest generation of music lover is, like Apple Music. I mean, think about it, or Pandora. I
Yeah.
think those things are awesome because like even Spotify, you can turn it on, you can have it find music like your other music or music that you like. And so people are starting to, or not starting to, but they have been for a while, really getting into hearing mixes of new bands and new things that they never would before because the algorithms can pull together what you like. I think it's super cool in a way, different but cool.
Yeah. No, I'm going to take that back a little bit because I do agree with you on that. Because sometimes I'll be listening to something that I like, and then that will end, and it'll go into different songs that I never even heard. I'm like, wow, who is this band? And that would make me look up a different band. That's why when sometimes bands get mad about the streaming, and I know why they get mad because they're not really making any money from the streaming. But there's sometimes with some bands I would never even know if they existed if it wasn't for the streaming because I'm listening to them like, wow, who are these? And then what I do is I look and find out where they're going to be in the area and then buy something. So I buy some merchandise at their merch table. So they do make money from me, but
Mm-hmm.
initially I found out from them from the streaming. So it's sort of like
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And tell me the greatest app on earth isn't Shazam,
Oh
because
yeah.
I don't know about you, but I can be out anywhere, and if I even, I mean, I'll be in like restaurants, and my significant other, she'll be like, what the hell are you doing? I'll be like holding the phone up in the air, like, because I hear a song that I just love. I've never heard it before. It's amazing. I've got to have it, and I'm Shazamming it. I don't care where the fuck we are, how nice the restaurant is. I'm holding the goddamn, and I'll go find the speaker and hold the fucking phone up in the air just so I can get it. And let me tell you, it's like movies. I'll be at the movie theater. I have to have that song. And that happens to me all the time. And so many of the great songs that I love, people have never even heard them before, and they came from those experiences, which I think Shazam is one of the greatest things on earth.
Oh, I agree. My wife has it, and I have her do the same thing. Like, wait, get your phone. I want to find out who sings this. So I have her do that for me all the time. Like just the other day, we were at a restaurant. I said, who the hell is this? I love this song. And then she went like that, and I found out who it was. So you're right. I do love that app, Shazam.
Yes.
So how old were you when you realized, hey, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Ooh. Well, I was probably like 14.
Wow.
Because that's when I took 2 years of lessons from a guy in Atlanta named Jack Dukes. He was a big professional drummer, and I had another teacher named Kenny, and I learned from some top Atlanta professionals at the cool drum shops in Atlanta back in the day. And I would go home, and they made me good enough to where I could play along with all of the music that I loved. And especially back then, playing along with like Jane's Addiction and Guns N' Roses and Metallica and Tom Petty back then, and even Rush, being able to play some of the Neil Peart parts. It was like they pay people to do this shit, and girls love drummers and all this other shit. So I was like, yep, I got to do this. At which point my dad's like, okay, well, you can do that if you go get a real job and pay for that. And so I did both and pacified my parents and kept them sane and did the drumming while I was doing the other thing. So, and like I said, you got to have a little coin to do this thing right. So, but that 13, 14, that did it. And it was really sad too. I had a distant cousin. I remember my mom was like, hey, I found your drum set. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, you have a distant cousin. He just died. And one of his last wishes was to have a drum set. And literally, and they got him this drum set. And I had that drum set for years. It was an awesome cherry red percussion plus, one of the, just a cute, fun drum set. And I had it for years. But yeah, my cousin who passed, distant cousin who passed away, that was one of his final wishes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you pretty much answered my next question is who were your biggest influences growing up? So you just said Neil Peart was one of them. Was Guns N' Roses, Jane's Addiction.
I like old rockers. I mean, going back to I mean, once you look at, I mean, Lars Ulrich, you can't beat him. Yeah. You go back to Jane's Addiction with what's his name?
I forgot the drummer's name.
Oh God,
I can't think of it right now.
I can't remember. But yes, him, Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
I think even just playing simple stuff, and I think what makes me part of the drummer I am today is Phil Rudd with AC/DC.
Yes.
The reality is that he showed me you could play just big booming, simple beats and play for the song. He taught me how to play for the song. And so I played with a lot of AC/DC back then. And, there's some of my famous drummers. As we move forward, you go to the Alien Freak, you go to Seven Dust drummer, Morgan Rose, you go to Shannon Larkin with Godsmack. I like the guys who beat the crap out of the drums. Even the drummer from Nonpoint. I was with Rivera last weekend 2 days ago in Wisconsin, playing a show. And dude, that guy beats the drums like a crazy person. And I love people who really are just power drummers.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love watching the drummers like just go nuts and go crazy. Like, a perfect example is Keith Moon and the Who. Just watching him play drums was so infectious. Really got into it, and it's just that you could tell he was just so passionate about having a great time. And are you a jazz fan at all? What do you think of Buddy Rich?
No.
No, you don't even like.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not a jazz fan,
But
but I love all music.
yeah.
And when you bring up Buddy Rich, I mean, you're talking about one of the best drummers in history. And so just so he you know, he's a magician is the
Yeah.
answer to the question. And people like Buddy Rich and Krupa and
Yeah.
all the early top pros. You know, these guys are so technical. I don't, you know, I look at them and I just watch in awe and enjoy every minute of it, regardless of what they're playing. I'm more of a feel drummer, even though I was taught, I still play by feel. So when I watch someone like Rich, it's just like, you know, holy shit.
Yeah. Well, the
You know,
reason
it's kind of like it's like Barker, Travis Barker. It's the same thing.
No, the reason I brought Buddy Rich up, I read a biography on him, and I was so amazed that from what I read, he really didn't take any drum lessons at all. They would have somebody play something first, and then they said he would see it once, and then he would imitate it. And he was just such a quick learner, and he just, you know, got better and better, and it's just an amazing drummer.
Those are the best. You know, the best always can do that stuff.
Yeah, because they just play what they feel. Like you said, they don't need to read notes, but they know it. Like there was a band
like Neil Peart.
Linkin Park's a great example. Yeah, there's so many great bands. So the question for you then, because I love this. When I was in bands, I used to just love to have fun. And one of the things that we did was a metal band. It was a metal version. We'd open up with "I Dream of Genius," like dun 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 dun. So the question for you is, what band were you in when the finisher was oompa loompa oompa dee?
Oh my god,
I love that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that dude. Let me tell you something. I was in a band called Tangent with a J, and way back in the day in Atlanta, and we had this. We had it going on, man. I mean, if you want to hear a cool song, I never put it out on iTunes or anything, but we had a song. We had a singer who could do hip hop and metal and gospel. He's a lot like LeJon Witherspoon.
Yeah.
But he was a professional hip hop artist as well. So he's like LeJon plus hip hop. And we did this Oompa Loompa thing, and people would come to our shows and just scream Oompa Loompa. And I think there's an old story I put out there about a little person who came to our show and jumped on my drum set and started playing, you know, during the Oompa Loompa song, which was one of the fucking craziest moments of my existence. And
I love it.
It was awesome, and the song was awesome. Like, it was just one of those fucking special things that just came together. Don't ask me; I couldn't do it with any other band other than that one.
I think it's just a lot of fun. I love that story.
Yeah.
Now, most, if not all, the musicians I spoke with recently said that most of the platforms, such as Spotify, would rather have them release one song per month than come out with a full-length album. Have you had that similar experience with these platforms?
With the platforms, you know, we're releasing through major channels.
Yeah, okay.
And
it's a little bit different for you.
It's a little different. You know, the recipe up at the level we're at is generally you're going to break up, and this is why bands don't just put out albums, because once you put out the album, it's done.
Yeah.
And so usually we'll put out three singles over 3 months, and then with the third single or the fourth, you know, we ultimately will put out the album. And it's just because you want to prolong it and you want to get as much press as possible and as many reviews as possible. And especially if you're going to radio, it's the type of thing where you want to get as much punch out of your release as possible, because you've done so much work. You know, again, you're putting in a gazillion hours and you're working on it forever. And when you put it out, it's like you want the biggest oomph possible.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, unfortunately, it's more like an ADD nation where everybody has that short attention span. Where, like, if you release an album, then you go on tour and you're like, what happened? I haven't heard from them in a long Pistols at Dawn in a while. And then they realize, like, oh, they released an album. Because the reason I bring that up was there was a singer I interviewed, and he said he would rather release a full-length album, go on tour for 13 months, have experiences, and be able to write better songs instead of just writing a song every couple of months and just putting something out just to have something. But like, it's different for you because you actually are on a label and you have the full length album, but you just release the songs at different times for the radio.
That's correct. And I think that's the trick of it is that listen, if you don't have the attention, just put out a single.
Yeah.
Once a month. Sounds great. You'll keep people's attention. But the reality is that if you're in a good band and you have good songs, you can make a song last, a minimum of 6 months on the radio, right? Where you're getting serious attention and serious play, and you're touring behind it, and you're getting radio behind it, you're getting publications behind it, and you're getting interviews behind it, and so on and so forth, to where you can stay relevant. And that's our goal. We don't want one song, 2 songs, album done. We want it's like you said at the beginning of the interview, which I take as a huge compliment, is the reality is we want to feel that we could put out every song on our album on radio. Now, obviously that's not going to happen yet, but because of financially, when you go to radio, it's very expensive. But the reality is that, we're already on our 3rd track on this album. And so we're blessed in that regard. And, we want it to last as long as possible. Now, don't get me wrong. We have certain supporters. They comment all the time. When's the next album coming out? When's the next album coming out? And it'll come. But until then, we're going to push. We're going to come tour and see them as much as possible, give them, live experiences and new live experiences. And then when we're done with that, boom, we'll hit them with a new album in 24.
Now, with all this touring that you're doing, when do you have time to write, and what is your writing process?
Very simply, generally within tours, in between tours, like in between our last tour and we're playing a bunch of festivals and just one-offs right now, but we're going to go out and do a headlining tour, which is what we're planning. I think we're going to come to Connecticut, which we haven't been to. I know we're doing the Northeast for sure, but that's going to get announced in the next couple of weeks, where we're filling in the dates as we speak. But the reality is usually there's at least a month or 2 in between tours. And honestly, we just come back home, me and the guitarist get in the room. We write the tracks very simply. The other guys, we kind of send things to each other. They write, we all kind of work on it. And then we get together here and there and put it all together. And then eventually, boom, you've got songs,
So do you have the singer write the lyrics, you write the music? Is that how it works? Okay.
Yeah. Fortunately, our singer actually plays rhythm guitar as well, so he writes, which is really nice. And so he has contributed songs for the new album as well, which is fantastic. And so everybody really gets into it. It's a collaborative effort. But generally, it starts with me and my shredder. We'll get into a room and we'll just he has ideas, and we just form them into the songs, And I really love how collaborative the 4 guys that we've been lately. It's just everybody's so into everyone contributing. It's not mine or his or they or his song. It's ours, and I love that more than anything. I think of System of a Down, and I think of what a waste that one of the best bands in the history of music hasn't really put out albums in 20 years because they can't agree on who gets credit and stuff like that. And I'm just like, are you do half the album with his and half the album with his and call it a day?
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know. I just that type of shit bothers me.
No, it bothers me too. It's like, to get over yourself, get the egos out of the way, and just make some good music. Right. That's what the fans want. They don't really care who writes the songs, as long as it's a good song.
Right. It's like the Black Crowes. They went away for like 15 years. What a waste. But I'm so happy they're back. Yep. I'm so happy they're back because it's making my world to get to see them. But I'm gonna have to step away soon. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And I leave an open invitation anytime you want. The rest of the band, myself, you want to come see us at a show and do an interview, or meet and have us do a session for you, whatever. It's an open invitation, and we're just grateful and blessed that you had us on today.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, you have carte blanche. You can come back on this show, or even the other band members, anytime you want. So you have something to promote, new tour, new album, just give Shauna a call, have her get in touch with me. I'll be more than happy to put you on the show. I loved it. I still have a lot more to even talk about, and I know you have to go. So I definitely would love to have you back on the show sometime soon.
Absolutely. It'd be my pleasure. And the people that listen to you, just tell them our socials, and we'll be happy. We love to communicate. We want people to connect with us, and we're going to look forward to coming to Connecticut in the Northeast, and we'll have to meet in person. You'll have to come see us live, because the feedback we get from our supporters is that we're much better live than we are on our albums, and that is the best compliment you can ever get as a musician. And so we want as many people to experience that as possible.
All right. Well, I think that's the perfect way to end the show. So thank you very much once again for being on the show, and I look forward to seeing you live and in person and back on the Claws Corner sometime soon.
All right, brother. Take care.
Right. Have a great night. That wraps
You
up
too.
the latest episode of the Claws Corner. A huge thanks goes out to the extremely talented drummer and founding member of Pistols at Dawn, Adam Jaffe, for taking time out of his extremely busy schedule to be a guest on my show. Another huge thanks goes out to editor extraordinaire John Bristol of Elmwood Productions for always doing a superb job editing this show each and every week and making it available to all. I am also extremely grateful to Joseph Timothy Quirk and Rob Bull for all they do to make my show available on several Connecticut radio stations, as well as Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, Audible, and iHeartRadio. Thank you both very much. And lastly, but definitely not least, I need to thank you, the viewer, for always tuning in. Enjoy your day, everyone.